Hey guys, Christian here, and today I'll be making a round by round analysis of Edson Barboza versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, I truly believe that in order to have a strong opinion about a fight, you need to have watched it multiple times, and I mean at least three times. Before we start, I'd like to just provide some context as to what my background is and what kind of analysis I can offer you. So I have a master's degree in coaching with a large emphasis on mixed martial arts. Most of what I wrote about was has to do with the health and regulation of the sport and how that can be improved. And I'll hopefully be making more videos on that in the future. So why am I bringing this up? Well, what often happens when a high-profile, top-of-the-game individual dominates another is we tend to overemphasize what the dominant fighter did, in this case, Khabib's relentless wrestling approach. So, because of my coaching background and just the overall way that my brain works, when I first watched Khabib versus Barboza, my first reaction wasn't necessarily, oh, look how awesome Khabib looked, but it was more along the lines of what could Barboza have done to have beaten Khabib? What were the mistakes that were made by Barboza? And I just want to make it clear that when I'm criticizing Barboza, I'm less criticizing the fighter and I'm more criticizing his preparation. Every fight is different, and because of that, every fight needs different preparation. So before I start talking about the first round, let's talk a little bit about body types. Barboza is a thoroughbred mesomorph, meaning that he packs on muscle a lot more easier than the rest of us while maintaining a low body fat percentage. Yoel Romero and Tyron Woodley come to mind. Now with these fighters, they display long moments of perceived inactivity in their fights, and that's because they need time for their muscles to reoxygenate so that they can produce those highlight moments of violence that we know them for. So it's during these periods of perceived inactivity that fighters with a more slow twitch muscle fiber system can capitalize and regain the momentum of the fight. And that's essentially what happened in this fight. Barboza started off really well and then faded on as the rounds went on. And I hear a lot of talk from fans and pundits and analysts saying this guy gassed and that guy gassed. And while it's true, I think it's a very simplistic way of looking at things. I mean, what causes most of these fighters to gas is not because they came in unprepared, it's because their opponent made them particularly nervous during the fight. And Khabib did that through his relentless ground control and ground and pound. So let's start with round one. Okay, so in the first couple of minutes of the first round, Barboza did some really great work. He had a very strong jab game and a very strong inside low kick game, which is a great way to nullify someone's forward momentum and off-balance them as they come in. Unfortunately for Barboza though, the beginning of the end happened at around 2.5 minutes into the first round when Khabib finally managed to get the takedown. If I was coaching Barboza, I would tell him that spending 10 seconds underneath Khabib is 10 seconds too long. Khabib's ground and pound is some of the best I've seen at lightweight, and what its utility is, essentially, is to induce an extreme amount of anxiety to Barboza. If there's anything I'd like you to take away from this video, it's this. We need to be much more accurate in the way we interpret what is happening when fighters get tired. Barboza is becoming fatigued because he's getting hit and is nervous about the fact that he might not be able to get up, we need to start thinking a little more deeply about what it means to gas. Okay, so the second round was very similar to the first in that Barboza starts off really well, maintains his movement, even though he's much more tired than in round one. And that's another thing I want you to notice is that these fast twitch muscle fiber kind of athletes are very good in the first few minutes of any round because they've had that vital rest period that I mentioned earlier. So even though Barboza's tired, he's doing really well. He stayed on his feet for almost 3+ minutes in this round before Khabib finally managed to get the takedown. Um, and Khabib even opts to run at Barboza rather than employ some efficient footwork that he displayed in the first round because he can sense that Barboza is fading. That ground and pound that he did in round one really paid off for him, and that Barboza's anxiety levels are pretty high by this point, which led to his fatiguing. For example, Barboza's throwing really big strikes in this round, but he's neglecting to take necessary breaks in between those strikes to recover. So what's going on is he's staying in the pocket and he's throwing these seemingly big strikes, but each time he does that, they're having less and less of an effect. And Khabib is sort of smelling that fatigue coming and is increasing his pressure, manages to get him down around the 2 minute and 25-second mark, and it's more of the same. Big ground and pound, great control, and overall just Khabib employing his game plan to a T. When it comes to round three, there's not too much that I want to say that I haven't already, in that it's Barboza just sort of surviving, to be honest, by this point. But what I want you to notice is the two consecutive spinning wheel kicks that he throws, which pretty much solidified my belief that Barboza was just done by this point and just wanted Khabib to disappear with one strike. So he throws this, it is what it is, it's a Hail Mary strike. Semi lands it, and then not even 5 seconds later, he throws another spinning wheel kick in hopes that Khabib would eat it clean and sort of just disappear, but obviously it didn't happen. So I just want to make it clear that these strikes are just Hail Mary strikes, and that's the sort of function that they serve. For a spinning wheel kick to be successful, it needs to be set up or it needs to be thrown when the fighter who's throwing it is fresh so that it has the maximum effect that it's intended. So at this point, I'd like to just make a sort of conclusion as to this fight and what I think Barboza could have done to beat him. And I want to talk about what the ideal fighter is that's going to beat Khabib. And it's someone who's going to throw a lot of front kicks, a lot of side kicks, a lot of spinning side kicks, a lot of body shots that will slow down Khabib and make him second guess himself. If I was coaching Barboza for this fight, I would employ a lot of Shark Tank training. I would get 5 or 6 wrestler types that are similar to Khabib's body weight and size, and I would just put Barboza in a cage and throw those wrestlers at him with a minute in between each, getting a fresh wrestler each time so that Barboza got broken in camp so that it did not happen in the fight. He needed to experience something very profound in this camp. He should have hated wrestling by the end of this camp, and I'm getting the feeling that is not what happened. Every single promotional material that I've seen before this fight, I've seen Barboza training the exact same way, using explosive movements and sticking to his bread and butter, which is striking. He needed to spend a lot more time doing jiu-jitsu, a lot more time being tested by wrestlers who are fresh, and a lot more time drilling front kicks. That's the message I want to leave you guys with. If you enjoyed this type of analysis and breakdown, do give me a like. And I'll be seeing you soon for more videos. Bye.